Warning, this podcast has themes related to child abuse and the murder of children. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Murders and Movie Podcast, M&M for short,
Not sponsored.
where once a week we gather around and explore the darker side of pop culture, film, and true crime.
Woo!
I'm Elizabeth, and here with me is Kaylin, and today we're talking about the world's youngest serial killer.
Love it. Children who kill.
Kind of about this case before I get in. It happened in a different country than the one we live in, which means that news was a bit harder to find. So I know there's different theories out there about him, and I know a couple other big people have, not that we're big, but a couple other people have covered him. So his name is Amardeep Sada. Again, it's from a different country. I'm the color of Wonder Bread. I'm gonna mess up. I'm so sorry. I'm trying my hardest.
Can I see the spelling? See if I could even get that.
It's I think it's Amardeep.
Amardeep Sada.
Yeah.
Sada!
So he was born in 1998, which means he's 1 year older than me, in the Begusari district of Bihar, India.
Ooh, can I see that?
Yeah, pop off.
I want to see if I can butcher that too. Begusari.
I feel like you didn't try.
I'm not trying to fit in anyone.
I feel like that was not an effort.
I think I had a stroke mid-saying it. Begusari.
Yeah, so we can't
India.
pronounce it. If you're from there, we're so sorry.
Put the pronunciation in the comment section
Yeah.
if you're watching us on YouTube. I'm super curious. I was laughing at myself.
Yes. Amardeep was from a very poor family, and because of this, he had never had any formal education. His dad worked as a laborer, and it was speculated that because his family was poor and his dad worked as a laborer, that Amardeep may have been forced to work from a really early age. And there's also some speculation that he may have been abused. There's really no evidence of this, just it was briefly mentioned in one of the articles I read. They were his dad abused him because of the culture of the time. And I was I don't know what that means, but I'm going to include it just because.
I wonder if it's abuse according to Western standards, too.
It definitely would have been according to Western standards, I think, because I feel the standards are very different there. So in 2006, when Amardeep was 8 years old, he committed his first 2 murders.
What the frick? That escalated quickly.
So his first victim was his 8-month-old sister. She was taking a nap in her mother's lap when Amardeep went up and took her, and I guess his mom just assumed that he was just taking her to go play. In reality, he took her to a field where he then proceeded to beat her to death with a rock.
That escalated super quickly.
Yeah. This is an 8-year-old little boy too. That's what's insane to me.
So is there anything that you could find from him growing up that could even
Him just committing murder.
Did he start with animals or anything
not
like
that I saw.
This was just the first
Actually,
thing?
I think there was. Hold on. Actually, I think there may have been, because later on, the neighbors believed that he had a dark streak. So I imagine that came from them knowing, because at first his family didn't tell anyone about him killing his little sister. They kept it secret.
Sounds a lot like John Benet Ramsey. If you want to check that out, we have a podcast
Yeah.
about that. Don't come for me.
So basically, his family was very much it's a family thing. We're not going to tell anyone. He's a little kid. He made a mistake. But anyway, so when he got home from beating his little sister to death, his parents are hey, where's your sister? And then he just took them to her body, where he had just left her in the field and had covered her body with grass and leaves.
Is he a sociopath?
There's theories that he is, yes. Because
Okay.
he's 8 and he just murdered his little sister.
I wonder if it was out of jealousy or something.
I don't know.
Because he's the only child. Other than his sister, it was just him.
I think so, yeah. His second victim was his 6-year-old cousin, who was also beaten to death.
He's got a lot of aggression.
Yeah, where is this coming from? That's why I really wanted to include that he may have been abused. Not that abuse is an excuse for committing murder, because it's definitely not an excuse for anything, but maybe it gives a little more insight on what's happening in his head. I don't know.
Because without those theories, it's literally this boy is just doing stuff, and me becoming a boy mom, that does not make me feel too
terrifying.
great.
Yeah. Like I said, the first two victims were killed within a year of each other, so in 2006. And the family didn't tell anyone that Amarjeet had committed these crimes, as they considered it a family matter. They were like, he killed family members. He's our family member. It doesn't involve anyone outside of the family.
So even the parents of his cousin were just like,
even they were like,
shit happens.
Yeah. They're from like a very small town, from what I can tell, like a very small town.
I just can't imagine reasoning this, like wanting to protect that single boy so much so.
Over the life of two children.
And they were both girls, right?
I think so, yeah. That actually makes sense now that you point that out, because that wasn't something that I noticed.
Because I don't know much about the culture there, but I wonder if it's the same, like you have a boy and the boy takes care of the family, but if you have a girl, the girl is given to someone.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they can't take care of the family, and it's kind of like, oh, I wish I had a boy.
In the next year, in 2007, is when he killed his next victim. This time, he went outside of the family to commit murder. His victim was a 6-month-old baby girl named Khushbu. The baby's mom had left her at like a daycare. It was like the school, but because it was a very small town, like parents would just like leave their kids there in the care of others, like go run errands and then come back and pick up their kids. And so Khushbu's mom left her in this daycare. She was asleep. Her mom was only going to be gone for like a few minutes. Like she just had to like go run errands really fast. But when the baby's mom came back, the baby was gone. Like I said, Amarjeet's neighbors immediately suspected him because they believed that he had dark streak. They suspected that he had killed his sister and cousin, but they didn't have proof because, like I said, the family like wasn't saying anything. So the neighbors immediately were like, it was definitely Amarjeet. And so they call up the police, and at first the police are like, it's a kid. That's definitely a 9-year-old little boy. You're wrong. Why are you trying to pin this on a 9-year-old little boy? But then the neighbors started pressuring Amarjeet's family, the Sada family, until his family took him to the police and allowed him to confess. And when he did confess, boy, did he confess. He excitedly admitted to strangling Khushbu, hitting her with bricks, and then burying her in a shallow grave. He then led the police to the grave and also confessed to the murders of his sister and cousin.
Yeah, there's no remorse, no sign of like self-preservation.
Yeah, he was like proud of what he did.
You're talking about an 8-year-old that killed people. There must have been something that he had seen this kind of violence before. Yeah. Because I don't know how old I was before the concept of murder was a thing, but he like went in full stride, like doing things that like adults do to other adults.
Yeah, and like I don't know at what age like the permanence of death becomes a thing, because I know at a certain point kids don't realize that death is permanent, and that's why it's like really hard to explain to kids that so and so died, because they literally don't know what it means. Like they're like, oh cool, I'll see them next week, and it's like,
or that you can do that.
Yeah, like they don't know. I definitely think it's younger than 8. Like I definitely think he knew death was permanent, especially after doing it to his little sister and cousin. And then, like, he went and did it to, like, Khushbu, so.
That's what makes me wonder if he had something violent happen to him or seen something violent, and he was like, I want to do that.
So the police go to interrogate him, and they are just like, hey, like, why'd you kill these other kids? And he smiled at them and asked for a biscuit or, like, a cookie. Can I have a cookie? And he was completely unremorseful. The police were like, why? And then anytime he was asked about his crimes, he would just stop talking and smile. Like, how unnerving. When asked about Khushbu's murder, he said, she was sleeping in the school. I took her a little way and killed her with a stone and buried her. So, like, I definitely think he knew what death was, because he straight up said, I killed her. So the superintendent, which I believe is like the police captain or like the prosecutor in like
say he's in
America terms. Yeah. I think that's what this was. But basically they obviously were like, yo, this kid's a psychopath. We need to get him to a psychologist. And like immediately they were just like, psychologist. They took him to this man named Shamshad Hussein, who was a psychoanalyst, who diagnosed him with general psychiatric disorder and called him a sadist who derives pleasure from inflicting injury. They said he had a chemical imbalance which led to him led him to get pleasure from inflicting pain, and he had no sense of right or wrong that derived from a hereditary disorder.
What kind of pleasure?
I don't know. They didn't say.
Because when I hear sadist, and
I
I'm
think
about to out myself.
Sexual pleasure.
Yeah, I think of 50 Shades of Grey. He was a sadist, and he got sexual pleasure from inflicting pain. But you're talking about an 8, 9-year-old boy. Granted, testosterone, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But, like, I wonder what kind of pleasure he was getting from it. Just, like, a giddy happiness? Or
I don't know.
He doesn't seem to feel many emotions other than...
Yeah, and they said
Cookie.
he had no sense of right or wrong. So, but the thing that I thought was interesting was that it was a hereditary disorder that he, like, couldn't feel right or wrong. So I feel like that implies that at least one of his parents was also probably like this.
Or a grandparent.
Or a grandparent, which, like, I think would make more sense. If they didn't know right from wrong, then he potentially was abused.
Mm-hmm.
Which would, like, lead, I don't know. I like, want to think of a reason because I don't like the idea that there are people who are just messed up for no reason, you know?
And the fact that he covered up his crime.
Like, he did and he didn't, though. Like, he buried her, but then he, like, readily admitted it to it. And, like, maybe that's because he was a kid and he also didn't understand law.
Or he wasn't doing it alone.
Cut to the court case and ruling. So he was obviously guilty, but the big debate was around sentencing. He couldn't be sentenced to death or prison because you can only be sentenced to death until, like, once you reach 18. So instead, he was sent to what is known as a remand home for, I think, at least 3 years. So there was confusion over whether he was sent for, like, 3 years or longer, but he was definitely sent for 3 years, which would mean he was 11 when he got out of the remand home. He was sent there for 3 years because it was the max sentence available. But while there, he was put into solitary confinement without any contact with other children. So, like, basically they were like, he can't be near kids. He's too dangerous. An 8-year-old little boy.
I feel like for some kid who doesn't understand, like, social cues and how society works, maybe the last thing you should do is cut them off further from society.
Yeah, like, I know he definitely still had interaction with adults because they couldn't cut him off completely because he was an 8-year-old little boy. Part of me is like, I don't want him near kids. He's already killed 3 other children. Like, he should not be with other children. But at the same time is completely separating him the move.
Yeah. What kind of help was he really getting during that time?
Yeah. Because of the threat he posed to the public, after he was released from the remand home after those 3 years, he was immediately put into a mental institution. However, because he was a minor when he was sentenced to this crime, he was released when he turned 18. So in 2016, Amardeep was released and his whereabouts are currently unknown. So they don't know where he is because he's, like, staying under the radar so far. Hopefully he continues to. I really hope he's better, but, you know.
I wonder if his parents are still involved in his life, or did they drop him because of all the bad publicity that was coming towards their way?
I don't know. Like, after covering the first 2 murders of their literal daughter and, like, niece, I feel like at that point, what do you have to lose?
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that his parents weren't charged with something since they were
covering it. I think it was, like, just the area they were in. Like, it was considered normal to cover it if it was, like, a family matter. I don't know.
I want to watch a documentary about this now because I feel like the parents need to be held accountable
in some way. Despite his young age when he was first arrested, the police readily released his photo and name because they were so concerned about the threat that he could pose to the general public. So, like, if for some reason something happened and he was, like, not sentenced to this crime, they wanted his name and image out there so that people would be, like, see him and be like, oh, I got to get my kid away from him. Like, they were very concerned.
That's so sad. Like, if he's that big of a threat, hold him.
Yeah, like, don't let him, like, get him help. So earlier you had briefly mentioned maybe he had help. So there's a theory that he was potentially set up for the crime because he's a child and they, like, assumed he wouldn't get punished as severely as, like, an adult. And, like, some evidence towards that is normally when a child commits murder, they don't try to hide the body the way that Khushbu's body was hidden. Like you said, like, he tried to cover his crime, but then he just, like, immediately confessed to it. Like, which if you're going to hide the body, why immediately confess? However, based on how excitedly Amardeep acted when leading the police to the body and his reaction during the interview, like, him smiling and like asking for a cookie and like all that, which is very creepy. It is very highly suspected that the police actually got the right person.
I wonder though if he had been trained to cover up someone else's crimes, and so he didn't see these as bad things.
Yeah.
He had been taught like, oh, they're good things. Like, you're gonna be so famous. You're gonna get so much attention.
Like, everyone's gonna love you. Like, as a kid, like, that's all you want.
I do not trust his family. They were too quick to cover it up. And then they didn't, like, immediately send him to the police. And again, he's an 8-year-old kid.
Like, even if you don't, like, okay, let's say he murders your daughter. You don't want to lose your kid, like John Benet Ramsey style. Not saying Burke did it, but, like, you know, I can understand not turning your kid over to the police, but, like, get them mental help. If he is the person who committed those murders, it's concerning that no one knows where he is. Or, like, I'm sure someone knows, but, like, the general public doesn't.
This was what, like, 10 years?
He was released in 2016.
Almost 10 years?
That was 5 years ago.
5 years. Oh, my God.
5, almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years when this comes out.
So he's like a full-fledged adult. He's like...
He's 23 years old.
Still out there.
Yeah.
Doing
like,
stuff.
He's living.
I wonder if you were to talk to 23-year-old him.
Like, what he would say about his crimes.
Yeah. I'm sure he has some insight into stuff that he's like, I didn't bring this up as a kid because I didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah.
I wonder with all the help that he was getting while he was in, like, that troubled boys home. Like, did anything come up through the psychiatrist?
But like I said, because it's from a different country that has, like, very different media practices and all of that, I wasn't able to find that much information. And when I did, I knew there was, like, conflicting information. So if you know anything else, or, like, if for some reason Amarjeet is listening, first off, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. If you know anything else, like, let us know. I'm very interested in it because, like, an 8-year-old little boy, like, that's insane to me. When I was 8, I was, like, playing with Barbies.
Oh, the Polly Pockets, and I was chewing on her clothes.
Yeah, if you knew about death, you would not have been chewing on those Polly Pocket clothes, let me tell you.
I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening through Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all those podcast places, you can find us on YouTube and vice versa. And yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, for doing all that research. I feel like you pronounce those names very well. If not, we tried, gosh dang it. Like, her name's Elizabeth, my name is Kaylin. Do we have any experience with names that aren't basic? Probably not, but we tried, and we're sorry. But yeah, let us know if you have any information on this case, his whereabouts. But yeah, we will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.